What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the 4 phases of a body recomposition. We're not really going to pay attention to the scale weight, but rather how your body looks in the mirror, because we can't always rely on the scale to dictate if we're making progress or not. But don't worry, I'm going to go into everything in detail on the presentation that I've built for you on my computer right over here. So without further ado, I'm going to send you guys over there, but before I do that, I want to remind y'all to do hard shit, be confident, have the courage to be uncomfortable, but most importantly, remember how much I love y'all and how much I'm rooting for you guys. I will see you in my computer. Alright guys, I have y'all on my computer now, where we're going to go through the 4 phases of a body recomposition, so you can take yourself through these 4 phases and ideally end up in your dream physique. Now, these phases I'm going to walk you through are the exact phases that I went through and also the phases that I coach my clients through. You're going to be in each phase for a different period of time depending on factors specific to you, but these are the general 4 phases, and essentially this is going to be like your roadmap in recompositioning your body. As you're watching this, I want you to think about breaking yourself down to then rebuild or build yourself back up. That's essentially what we're doing here with a recompositioning, and recomp just means lose fat and build muscle. When we take a general weight loss approach, we're not really guaranteed to get our dream physique, right? We're just going to see the scale drop, and we might just end up a smaller, skinny fat version of what we already are. So ideally, when you have a dream physique in mind, or you want to look lean, toned, and athletic, that is more than not going to be a body recompositioning journey, because we can't just focus on losing weight, because when we focus on losing weight, we're losing fat and we're losing muscle. We're just focused on weight, so we don't really know what we're losing. Versus a body recomposition is more so fat loss and muscle gain. So in theory, we can't rely on the scale dropping drastically, because we are putting on muscle mass, and muscle has weight to it as well. And your dream physique probably has more muscle on it than you do now currently. Not even probably, most definitely. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into phase 1. So phase 1 is going to be your current position. And you may be wondering, why is this important? Well, I'm about to show you, because this is fundamental in figuring out how to get yourself to transform. Everyone is different mentally and physically. Consider your current position as quote unquote a failure, right? You're in a place physically and probably mentally that you don't want to be, so you're trying to get out of it. You're trying to transform. Now, in order to learn from this, we need to analyze our current position so that we can understand how to get ourselves to go through the next couple of phases. And so when you're looking at your current position, start with asking yourself, where am I currently at? This is important because most people, and I've noticed this with myself, I used to do this, and also with clients, kind of talk up the situation that they're in as if it's better than it really is. Be brutally fucking honest with yourself, because the more real and raw you are, the more motivated you're going to be to keep moving forward. Do you struggle with binging? I struggled with binging. I struggled with a bad drinking habit, and I just struggled with a lot of mental weaknesses because I was very weak-minded, which led for me to have the physique that I did, right? All those weaknesses that I had in my mindset came to fruition in my physique. So that's kind of why we're trying to peel back the layers here, because those will continuously be problems on this journey until you acknowledge them. You cannot acknowledge them if you're sugarcoating where you're currently at. So be fucking real. And you know what it is that I'm talking about. Like, I can't tell you, because you know you better than I know you, and you're up here, and you know when you're fucking lying to yourself. You know when you're sugarcoating it and patting yourself on the back instead of pushing yourself. You know what it is. So whatever excuses or little lies that you tell yourself so you can stay comfortable where you're at, even though you know you want better, or you know that you want to be better, start being fucking honest. Now, like I said, for me, 170 pounds, bloated, frustrated, struggled with drinking. Obviously, I'm trying to cover my double chin here, as I said in a few previous videos, by doing this little fucking whatever the fuck this is, trying to cover my double chin, and also trying to cover my bloated physique down here. And that's just the real honest truth that I had to say to myself. But before I admitted it to myself, I would say, oh, it's not that bad. I'm just bulking. I'll pay attention to it later when I'm not so busy. Like, I'm just stressed right now. I got a lot on my plate, so I'm just going to let this go because I don't have the capacity to do it right now. And those were all excuses and like copes that I was telling myself, so it didn't hurt so bad and I didn't actually have to put in the effort to change. And in the long run, that was hurting me, because you never stay neutral. So imagine it as if you're driving a car. In terms of reaching a goal, you're only moving forward or you're moving backward. You are not able to remain neutral. And I'm saying this because a lot of people think, oh, if I just have a cheat meal today, I can start back up tomorrow, or I'll just start on Monday, and they think they're always in the same condition to be able to start. When in reality, the things that you do today are either contributing to getting you closer where you want to be, or digging the hole that you're in even deeper, making it harder for you to climb out of. The next thing that you have to ask yourself is, how did I get here? That's something that I've noticed no one asks themselves. I didn't even ask myself that either, and it was a big thing that kind of slowed me down. What led for me to be in this position? Why was I drinking and binge eating and doing all these things that I knew were not the best for my health and my wellness, and the person that I wanted to become. Why am I doing it? So when you ask yourself how, you'll be able to identify negative patterns that you have. That's how I was able to identify the binging and the drinking, because when you're not paying attention, it doesn't seem like a problem. Like, oh, I'm just going out with my friends. I just want to go out and have fun. And you'll kind of lie to yourself in that sense when deep down you know the truth. You know that you're drinking because you are hating the way that you look in your outfits, or you don't like the way that you look in the mirror, or you feel disappointed in yourself, or you know your weaknesses and you don't want to acknowledge them, so you're trying to cope. Same thing with binging. And so understanding the patterns that led for you to even be here, and then unpacking the why behind you did that shit, is going to help you break it down. This is just as much of a psychological battle as it is a physical one. So if you're going to discredit mindset stuff, or you're not going to look at these things and peel back a few layers, you are going to hit the same roadblocks in all avenues of your life, in all the goals that you try to reach. So if you don't look at it here and you don't acknowledge those patterns that you have and the coping that you do, you're going to face it on path to any goal, not just a fitness one. So the more that you avoid it and run from it, the longer you're making the journey for yourself. Bite the bullet, acknowledge it, and just be honest about your shortcomings. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself. So when you understand your current position, this is relatively quick, right? Maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes you a day to sit down and understand yourself and figure out the why. It's really just a lot of self-analyzation. That's it. This is before you even implement nutrition, before you even implement training. At least take a day, if not more than that, to really understand, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Think about everything that you've done. So in phase one, we need to be brutally honest about where we are. Are we skinny fat? Are we overweight? Are we having shortness of breath when we try to go up the stairs? And then we need to ask ourselves, again, being brutally fucking honest about, how did this happen and why did I do that shit that got me here? Knowing that about yourself and being able to step outside of your brain and analyze it as if you're not you is pretty much essential to be able to lead yourself through the next couple of phases. Okay, phase 2. So after understanding the negative patterns that you have and the habits that those patterns lead to, now we can get into the fat loss part of this. Now, fat loss is phase 2 because if you're skinny fat, if you are overweight, if you're carrying an excess amount of fat on your body, objectively, you are unathletic. When you are unathletic, it's really hard to train in the fashion that an athlete would train. And in order to be able to put on muscle effectively, we need to be able to train in that range. And so the main goal with this is making sure that that fat comes off your body. All right, now first off, nutrition. You need to be in a structured caloric deficit. I say structured because we cannot focus on just eating less. This is not a general weight loss approach. We're building a dream physique. We're not just obsessed with the scale dropping. So when I say structured caloric deficit, I do mean eating less calories, but you don't know if less calories is going to be less foods, especially if you're eating from whole food sources, which you should be. Now, when it comes to structuring this caloric deficit, you want to make sure that the macronutrients within that deficit are promoting muscle growth, fat loss, and keeping you full. Because when you stay full, you're less likely to eat more than you're supposed to when you're trying to lose fat. And the key things to make sure that you're building muscle, losing fat, and staying full is going to be protein and fiber and strategic placement of your carbs and fats. Now, I can get into the nitty-gritty of that in another video, but right now, just focus on structuring your caloric deficit and not just eating less. Next up with activity, you need to resistance train. So if you are debating going to the gym or you're not really sure if you should be doing cardio or lifting, you need to be lifting, not just to look lean and toned, but also to live a healthier lifestyle. And when you have more muscle, you're able to eat more. So this will help you break out of having to over-restrict yourself for the rest of your life. All I'm going to say for cardio is move more. Whether you want to have a dedicated specific time where you do cardio, maybe you do some incline treadmill at the end of the gym session that you have, or maybe you do some Stairmaster after the gym, or maybe you just focus on getting a step goal, or maybe you take 5 walks a day after you eat to help with digestion. I don't care what the hell you got to do, move more. And I wasn't very specific with the move more thing because I don't want anyone to feel confined to a box. I have a lot of corporate warriors that have to bust out a walking pad, or they got to go on walks outside of their building in New York on the street, or they have to do fucking laps around the office. Whatever you got to do to move. If you can go and get in some cardio at the gym and do incline treadmill, or like I said, the Stairmaster or the bike or whatever, there's no box here. Just do what you got to do to move more. That's it. Next is mindset and perspective. Cut the weak-mindedness. And I say this with love. Every harsh thing or tough thing that I say is tough love. I say it with love because I want the best for you, and I had to have this conversation with myself to get myself to transform. So cut the weak-mindedness. It's going to be hard. Okay, you're hungry. That you're losing fat. That's how you're going to feel. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. If it was easy, you wouldn't have clicked on this video. And if it was easy, everyone would have it. When you cut the weak-mindedness and you stop your brain from arguing with you every time something gets difficult, you realize that, hey, I can do hard things. I went to the gym after I had a stressful day and I was tired and I'm hungry and I fucking survived and I lived. And look at that. I can probably do a lot more other shit that I thought I couldn't. Show yourself every single day that you can do it, even when it's fucking difficult. This will help you build internal leadership. The most important thing that any person on this planet develops is the ability to lead themselves. If you cannot lead yourself, you will not go anywhere. You won't reach any goal. Now, of course, this isn't going to happen overnight, but most people are blind to this. Not many people are trying to build internal leadership, and not many people are even willing to admit that they're weak-minded. So cut the weak-mindedness and start working on building internal leadership. Another key thing about internal leadership, you must know yourself to lead yourself. So that is why phase 1 is so important in getting yourself through the rest of these phases. How are you going to lead someone if you don't know them? I say this analogy often, but you need to imagine it as if you're playing a video game. There's a you that's in the game, going through the levels, you're getting shot at, you're getting hurt, you gotta heal up, you gotta win the game. And then there's the you on the couch with a controller that knows the levels, that knows the enemies or obstacles that are going to come your way, and they don't feel the pain in the game, so they will push you to your limits. They will do whatever needs to be done to win. That is how you have to operate in life, and that is the best analogy that I can think of for internal leadership. Now, another avenue of mindset and perspective is learning how to train your brain. You might hear this often, but you can train your brain like a muscle. And whenever I'm referring to training your brain like a muscle, the specific cortex that I'm referring to is the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Now, this specific part of your brain grows when you do the things that you don't want to do. When you pair doing what you don't want to do alongside the goals that you have with fitness and nutrition, that is how you achieve both mental and physical fitness. The mind and body always have to be challenged in working together or in congruence towards the goal. If you forget about training your mind, you will lose purpose or fulfillment on the journey of trying to achieve your body. And once you get there, you'll be like, this wasn't worth it, and you'll spiral and probably gain it all back. So you need to make sure that you're training your brain to do the things that you don't want to do, and then apply that through the lens of training and nutrition. So if you haven't seen any of my other videos or aren't really familiar with the mental side of training or training your AMCC, you can start with small things that typically you'd put off, right? So let's say you don't like to do the laundry as soon as it comes out, so you dump it in that one chair in your living room or in your house or whatever. Make it a point that every time that that laundry comes out, you do that, and you train yourself to do it, no questions asked, even if it's hard, even if you're in a rush, even if you don't have time. That's also why you see a lot of people say that they make their bed first thing in the morning, regardless if they're late, in a rush, or whatever. And it's a way to build discipline with small little tasks, right? So think about when you're going to the gym and you're working out for the first time. You're not going to be grabbing the biggest dumbbell. You're going to be grabbing maybe 5s and 10s. Then you're going to work your way up to the 60s and the 70s. That's the same thing with training your AMCC. When you embark on this journey, you're not going to wake up and become disciplined the next day just because you decided you wanted to do this. You're going to have to start with little chores like that, or maybe parking in the farthest parking spot and walking into the door, making yourself do hard things to show yourself that it's okay, you're going to live, and it's going to be fine. Then when you kind of develop that a little bit more, it's going to get easier to navigate being hungry when you're losing fat, or showing up to the gym, or pushing yourself even when you're tired or you've had a stressful day or you have every reason to quit. Life will always give you excuses and reasons as to why what you're doing is difficult. You might not have a lot of time, you might have a lot of responsibilities, you might have a lot of kids, you might have a lot of things going on. Those are only excuses if you let them be. But doing these little things to train that AMCC shows you that, hey, we can have all of this shit going on in our life, and we're still going to do what it is that we want to do, and we're still going to push for more and become better. So these 3 things here are essentially the pillars of the fat loss phase. Now, the one thing that you have to make sure you do with these 3 things when implementing them is that they always work in congruence with your lifestyle. If you work a very busy job, and you have 2 kids, and you coach little Timmy's soccer team on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it would be very unrealistic to tell yourself you're going to go to the gym 6 days a week. Don't program that. Don't set yourself up for failure and then feel bad when you can't hit it because it's unrealistic as fuck. If you have a busy schedule, you're going to have to bend the rules a little bit. You're going to have to get crafty, right? So let's say that you are Timmy's mom or dad. I'd recommend going to the gym 3 to 4 days a week and then going on walks before Timmy has soccer practice, and maybe even taking the kids with you, or implementing like a 20-minute walk on the treadmill after your lifts. And since we know that you're only training 3 days a week and movement is limited, now we can tweak your nutrition because we know that you're not able to do as much as someone who maybe doesn't have kids or has a more flexible job. So now with nutrition, we can still prioritize protein, but we'll manipulate the carbs and the fats to fit that lack of activity or that lack of movement because of your busy schedule. That way we can ensure that fat loss is still occurring even though you've got a lot on your plate. The main point I'm trying to get across with making sure that it's in congruence with your lifestyle is that this is flexible, and there's not a single person on this planet that is not able-bodied that cannot achieve this or make this work within the bounds of their life. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad if you're not doing it, or to, try to combat any excuses that you have, but rather to give you some peace of mind in knowing that this is flexible and it can fit realistically any fucking schedule known to man so long as you yourself want it. All right, now that is going to lead me to phase 3, which is going to be build, right? Now we're going to start putting on some muscle mass. Now I have this little interlinked chain here because phase 2 and phase 3 kind of overlap a little bit once you get majority of that fat off of your body, right? Once you've gotten yourself into a healthy body fat percentage that isn't adverse to your training, that's when they kind of occur at the same time, right? So somewhere along the lines, these two phases will bleed into each other and you'll be losing fat and building muscle at the same time, which is actually good because it can speed up the journey for you and help you get faster progress rather than waiting for fat loss to be fully finished and then going into building muscle. These things can happen concurrently. That's why there's this little chain link here. Now, let's get into phase 3, which is build. Now, with phase 3 being the building phase or the increasing in muscularity phase, we've lost majority, if not all, of the body fat that we had at the first point in phase 1. Now, I did say at the beginning of this video, you'll be in each phase for a different amount of time depending on your current position. So it might take you a little bit longer to get to phase 3 because you've had to dig yourself out of a deeper hole than maybe someone else who was skinny fat or not as overweight. And so when you get into phase 3, the approach that you're going to take is going to be slightly different, but not really much different. Now, when it comes to your nutrition, you're going to start reintroducing nutrients to improve leanness while minimizing, while minimizing fat gain. Now, oh my gosh, there's two eyes. I'm sorry. That's not even minimizing. I literally am not looking at the full word. My fault. Sorry, guys. Okay. So essentially what this looked like for me and also what I do for my clients is once they're at this level of leanness, we can then start reintroducing or re-implementing the nutrition to help them be fueled to train hard, right? So carbs and fats are essentially indirect drivers or catalysts for muscle growth because they don't necessarily build and repair the muscle like protein does, but they help us have the energy necessary to provide proper stimulus to be able to almost promote or initiate muscle growth, right? So they give us energy to be able to go in the gym and lift heavy shit, which then tells our muscles, hey, we need to grow, and then we utilize the protein that we eat to build on more mass. So our reasoning for reintroducing these nutrients is to give us energy to start growing and building our lean and toned physique. While it is true that you can build muscle while in a calorie deficit, it is a little bit difficult and a little bit harder because energy is sparse and dwindling just because you're eating less than you're burning and your body is having to use the fat stored on it. When you start losing fat and you don't really have any more fat to lose, it gets harder for your body to have proper energy to be able to train. And so when we start reintroducing the nutrients, it is for the sole purpose of helping you have the energy necessary to be able to put on more muscle. Now, I have every single one of my clients carb cycling both through the fat loss phase and the building phase, as well as planning majority of their carbs around their workouts to make sure that their body utilizes it for energy and doesn't store it as fat. That's a part of minimizing the fat gain. Now, as far as activity goes, you should be changing your split every 12 weeks. Every time you change your split, you can choose a different developmental focus in your physique so that you don't have to do the same workouts all the time. And you can have certain periods of the year where you're working on specific body parts instead of trying to hit every muscle group evenly for the rest of your life. That can help give you some variety and keep you excited about training and give you a change of scenery every few months so you don't feel like you have to do the same thing every day and your life gets monotonous and boring. Of course, keep moving. Now, everything in phases 2 and 3 are tweaked dependent on the data that I receive from my clients. So when you're doing this for yourself, monitor your weight, monitor your energy, monitor how you look in the mirror and all the things that you're feeling to tell you exactly what you should tweak or adjust moving forward. And that's another thing that I don't think many people do. A lot of people rely on their brain to be a file cabinet. And if you want to get anywhere, not just fitness goals, but any goals in life, you've got to be better about categorizing things and understanding data and being able to recognize patterns. If you're one of those people that's like, oh, it's annoying to keep track of all that stuff, that's why you're not making progress, because you're relying on your brain to remember everything and remember what you're supposed to eat and remember what you're supposed to train. And you're giving yourself more stress to work with rather than just writing it down. Once you write it down, you can not have to worry about keeping it up here. And it actually alleviates stress for most of my clients because I handle it for them so they don't have to think about it. It would do the same for you as well. So make sure that you're writing things down and keeping track of everything. So whenever you do get stressed out, you can almost turn your brain on autopilot and kind of just operate off the plan that you've written down, and it's easier. And then as far as mindset and perspective, find new ways to train your anterior mid-cingulate cortex. My favorite way to implement this is using different modes of cardio. Cardio is great for fat loss, but it's even better to train your anterior mid-cingulate cortex. It's why I run the way that I do. It's why I ended up running a half marathon and a full marathon, and why I made myself run when I was younger, because I fucking hated it. So the key to training your anterior mid-cingulate cortex with cardio is before you go to the gym, you want to make sure that you have a set time in your head that you're going to do for cardio. And then you're going to have an incline and speed or a speed and resistance or whatever already preset in your mind or in your plan that you're going to do. Make sure this is challenging, but not fucking impossible. Like if you've never ran a mile, don't sit there and tell yourself you're going to get on the treadmill and run a half marathon. When you're going to the treadmill or the Stairmaster or the bike or the rower or whatever it is, remember those parameters and have them on your phone. Keep the same speed, the same resistance, the same incline, the same whatever, and don't stop a second early. Finish it through. Listen to how your brain talks to you when you want to quit, when you want to give up, all the excuses it throws at you, and handle them. And don't get off that damn treadmill, the Stairmaster, the bike, or whatever. Not because if you get off, it's detrimental for fat loss, or all of a sudden you're not going to make progress, or because it's essential that you do cardio for fat loss, but because it's essential for the growth of your mind. And you show yourself that even when your brain wants to quit, that you are going to do what it is you set forth and you're going to follow the parameters that you have set for yourself. This is a way to train your brain to essentially be able to reach the long-term goals that you've set by saying, hey, even when I want to quit, even when I want to give up, even when it's hard, I'm still going to follow through. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you cannot sit there and stick to the parameters of cardio because your brain's telling you that it's too hard and it's uncomfortable, you're not going to be able to achieve any of the other long-term goals if you can't do something as simple as that. So now we're at phase 4, which is essentially mental and physical self-mastery, right? So you've been through the fat loss phase and also the muscle growth phase. In both of those phases, I encouraged you to pretty much collect data on yourself to understand yourself. One thing about this whole fitness thing that not many people will say because they want it to be very black and white is that there's nuance. What works for you might not work for someone else. The only way to know if something does work for you or not is to test and analyze the data. And so over the course of phase 2 and 3 primarily, you need to be collecting data on yourself and see how your body responds to the food that you eat, the training that you do, the recovery methods that you put in place, all the things that you do so you can improve it to essentially reach the self-mastery phase. Because once you build, think of it like an engine or a machine. Once you build the engine that is in congruence with your lifestyle and with your personal preference, now all you have to do is just maintain it. Do some oil changes, make sure everything's operating properly, give it fuel. That's literally it. Now that you've built the engine, all you have to do is maintain it. Now, don't be confused and think that you can coast here because you've worked hard to get yourself to this specific mountain or this specific peak, and you've learned from your mistakes. So now you know better. Now you are more aware. And so when you're at this peak or when you're at this point, you cannot let yourself fall from here because you went through those 4 phases to essentially get to the peak of the mountain. You will not only have a better looking physique, but also a happier and healthier mind and body, which will be positively affecting your health for the rest of your life and hopefully extend your lifespan to be longer. In this last phase, I really want you to consider the journey that you went through to get here and let that be something you're proud of, but also something that helps you feel motivated and encouraged to maintain your current position. Just because you reach this point doesn't mean it's all easy, sunshine, and rainbows. You will still face adversity both physically and mentally. And it's important to remember how hard it was to get yourself to this point and how hard it was to dig yourself out of that hole so you don't let yourself fall back there. But having trained your body and your mind, it'll be much easier for you to navigate the adversity that you face in life and on track towards other goals that aren't necessarily fitness related. Now, I did say that this was a body recomposition journey, so in these 3 photos here, I am pushing 160, and I'm incredibly happy with the physique that I have here, whereas in the first photos, I was not happy. I was much more bloated, I didn't have as much muscle, and I didn't look as lean as I do now at 160. And in this photo here, I was in the 140s, but I was also in the 140s right here. So all of that is proof that you should not let the scale be your end-all be-all. You should look at different factors to be able to dictate whether you're making progress or not. These are the 4 phases of a body recomposition. You want to first analyze how you got to your current position and be brutally honest with yourself. Then you want to focus on fat loss so you can be in a position to train athletically so you can put on as much muscle as possible to give you a lean and toned look. Then you're going to want to go into phase 3, which is just building on top of that base that we've broken ourselves down to. Again, at the beginning of the video, I said to break yourself down to then build back up. So phase 3, you're reintroducing nutrients to be able to build on top of that. And then that leads you into phase 4, where you maintain that because you've built it around your lifestyle and you implement all the things that you've learned about yourself and about your body throughout all the phases. And that is everything that I have for you guys today. If you want me to coach you through this, I will leave the application in the description of this video. If you're a good fit and spots are available, I will personally be reaching out to you. If you have any questions at all, I will also leave my Instagram down there as well, and you can message me there. I'll get back to you with a voice message. Before I end this video, I want to tell you guys that we're in the tail end of 2025. Start now. Don't wait for January 1st. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for next week. Start right now to get momentum to take you into 2026 so you're not the person that always says they're going to start on New Year's and then they don't actually do a single fucking thing. You cannot save time. You can only spend it. So quit wasting it. Remember, there is no neutrality. You're only moving forward or backwards. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to do hard shit, be confident, but most importantly, remember how much I love y'all and how much I'm rooting for you guys. Thank y'all for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.